The Boys, season 4, episode 6. Crazy, we're already 6 episodes into this.
Yeah, we only have 2 episodes left. It's that 3-episode premiere that really, especially when you only have 8 episodes, really shortens it. But I think it is a good idea. I think that's a good middle point.
That's probably the best way to do it. The Boys has it down.
Yeah.
What do you think of this episode, Jimmy?
Okay, this episode is... I will say this. This is a very divisive episode. Are you aware of this?
Maybe. Well, I mean, I've seen some of the discourse online. I didn't watch it until last night, so I really haven't read into it after the fact. I was just reading some stuff beforehand.
When I watched this episode for the first time, I really enjoyed it. And I thought, wow, they have yet again, I'm like, just when I thought they could not... just when I thought they couldn't go more extreme, they did.
Yeah, they continue to.
And I did I thought it was very entertaining to watch at the time. There are people who that I've read online that were like, I thought they went too far this time. It was not justified. And I think everything I basically have read about that is completely legitimate. So on one hand, I'm like, this is one of my favorite, upon at least first watching. I haven't gone back and rewatched it since I read these arguments from people. But on first watch, I was like, wow, this is my second favorite episode of the season in terms of it's just wild and crazy. But on the other hand, I'm like, I can legitimately see why someone would see this is the worst episode of the entire show. So, I don't know. What did you think, I guess, on your viewing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was aware of kind of the main thing that people have issue with this episode going in. So I kind of I was already able to watch it with that mindset. I think, I can definitely see why people think it goes too far. I think for most of it, I still like it quite a bit. I think it's just, most of it is taken to an extreme and it works just character-wise. For certain scenes in this, which we can get into in a little bit, but yeah, there's probably at least one aspect of this that probably doesn't need to be here. I would say, but overall, I think it's a pretty strong episode. I don't think it's as, and this might be my hot take, I'm not sure it's necessarily as insensitive as a lot of people think it is, but I also think I can see why people think it goes too far in some regards.
And coming at this, I'm one person. I'm just gonna tell you what I thought. This is not how you should think.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers. And I think I don't want to just both sides it, but it's have your own opinion about it, and just we're opening up the discussion, and let's have this discussion. Let's talk about The Boys. Let's break it down. Talk about what we liked, maybe what doesn't work for us, the season as a whole so far, that sort of thing. So, Holden. A lot of this episode is this party.
Yeah, at Tech Knight's mansion.
And I guess I didn't realize going into this episode that Tech Knight is supposed to be a playoff Batman.
I think I kind of guessed that. Maybe I didn't mention it in the review, but when he was first introduced in Gen V, I was like, okay, so he's literally world's greatest detective, because he can just notice all these small things. And I guess Black Noir is the closest, but he's not. I mean, aside from just having a dark themed costume, he's not really Batman.
Like a ninja.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, at least this is the detective side of Batman. But yeah, this really, really plays into that.
Yeah, into that aspect of it, which got Batman fans very heated, because they're like, "What? This isn't Batman." I'm like, "Okay, guys, it's not supposed to be a 1 for 1 or whatever."
Not literally Batman.
Or they're when they're Batman's a fascist. It's okay, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really care. Batman's my favorite superhero, but there can be multiple interpretations of him, and there can be parodies of him, and I'm not going to lose my mind. Don't need to lock me up in Arkham Asylum.
And I understand getting angry about a parody of a character you like. It's literally a parody. It's not supposed to be that.
But yeah, no, I thought a lot of the dinner scenes or this party scenes were really fun. I think Sister Sage was great.
Oh, she was awesome this episode. No complaints there.
Especially, I know I'm jumping a little bit to the end, but when you have that moment where Homelander is just hung out to dry, and he's I'm in charge of this and I've got everything planned. And all these people start asking like the real logistical questions. And he's just
he just does not know it at all.
He looks over at Sister Sage and she's just like eating the cake with her fingers. And Newman stepping into that and just owning that and just kind of joining this, using this, buying her leverage back, essentially, or earning it back.
She's well trained in the works of politics, where she's able to answer these questions without answering them. Quite frankly,
she seizes the opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is good for her survival, I think, because she's like not really a necessity for that. I mean, Homelander's gonna like having her on his side from like in the White House standpoint.
Yeah,
but now she actually has some leverage, so he probably doesn't appreciate that part. But her looking back at Sister Sage, like, "Oh, girls, get it done," or whatever,
and then Sister Sage just
and realizing that something wrong with her. That was probably the funniest moment of the entire episode. I think
absolutely
got a good chuckle out of me. But yeah, no. So while this is all happening, we have an infiltration, and it's kind of one of those. I love a good infiltration. I think there's just it works because there's an underlying tension the whole time of you being outed.
Yeah.
Additionally, you got Web Weaver, who I guess is Spider-Man,
yeah.
But he literally shoots webs out of his. Not of his butt, but
right by his butt.
Right by his butt.
Little spider hole.
Of course, it's the boys. So he's like some druggy guy with some weird fetishes, and poor MM has to deal with all of that.
Constantly being in the grossest situations, even though he's like a germaphobe.
Yeah. And so doing all that to get Web Weaver's suit, which everybody, the smell and all that. And then Huey going to the party. It is like, why is Web Weaver invited to this party?
Yeah.
There is an air of like,
because everyone there is like so important or rich or whatever, and he's just this druggie who seems to just live in this crappy apartment and doesn't seem that important.
It gave me a lot of Huey being in the suit and just walking around and interacting with people. Gave me a lot of Steve Carell Get Smart vibes when he's like, this is the heart of the entire operation, like repeating it to the guys who are listening into his ears. But I thought some of that was pretty good, and a lot of
we need to do a Get Smart episode sometime.
We do retro review. A lot of just those little interactions throughout are great, I think. And I'm trying to think if there's any other big things to talk about before we talk about Huey being taken into the sex dungeon.
I'm trying to think what happens like before that. Not much. Firecracker just gets ignored at the party. She's just there, and then
her part has been played essentially. Like she got the crap beaten out of her by Starlight, and
now she's like replaced Cameron Coleman on VNN. Yeah, so she's this figurehead kind of, but they don't need her for anything more than that.
Yeah, Sage is like that box has been checked, so we're done, and her and Homelander just kind of completely ignore her, which is
a private conversation or whatever they say.
Yeah. So I think that setup is really interesting.
Yeah.
If that goes anywhere now. There's a development towards the end of the episode.
Yeah.
That
very interesting.
Makes that might change where I thought that was maybe heading, but yeah. So the Web Weaver and Tech Knight sex dungeon BDSM stuff, Holden.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I like that the tech cave is just a sex dungeon. That aspect of it, I
like his
enjoy.
butler being clearly just like this. I am uncomfortable with all of this, but I'm stuck in this situation.
Spraying everything down when he gets down there, and just Well, and there's that whole there's the kind of like double. There's the whole aspect of Tech Knight's character that's introduced into this. He's like his like ancestors were slave catchers or whatever. And there's that moment where he says that and he looks at A-Train or whatever and he's like, well, I bet my ancestors would have caught you. or whatever, like just this horrible thing to say. Yeah. But then like when that kind of adds this extra like layer of ambiguity when he goes down to the tech cave and he has this black butler who calls him Master Knight. Yeah. Right. So it's like just very gross and ambiguous. Obviously supposed to be Alfred type. Yeah. I can't remember what the character's name is.
No, I don't either.
But yeah, no, I like that it's a sex dungeon. I think that's fun. I think that's funny. A funny concept at least. But.
And then Ashley gets involved too, of course, because Ashley's just into all that. Yep. So it makes sense that her and Tech Knight would just be into all this. And apparently Webweaver is like notorious.
Yeah, apparently.
For being in all this. So a lot of people are, do you think Tech Knight knew Huey was Webweaver that whole time?
That's, I don't know if it was the whole time. And I mean, obviously it's not great even if he doesn't know it, but it's still, it's made worse if he does. I don't know. And it doesn't really give you enough information to make a very good educated guess.
I don't think he knows personally the whole time.
No.
But I think he kind of puts it together. He puts it together before he rips the mask off, clearly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of the problems that people have is, like, Huey gets, like, sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And it's played off for laughs. And then I think the bigger outrage is afterwards, like, there was an interview with Eric Kripke, and, like, someone asked him, like, wow, like, poor Huey, like, his dad just died. Now he gets sexually assaulted, like, what do you have to do? He's like, that's a dark way to put it. We thought the scene was hilarious. And then people are like, well, you just did this for laughs. And on one hand, I'm like, it is like I do think men getting sexually assaulted is not taken as seriously as it should be in our culture in the year 2024. Yeah. So I totally can see that. Also though, it's like, people are getting like murdered and laser, things that are outrageous. But then on the other hand, people are like, okay, well, a lot of that stuff in this show has been like superhero powers and stuff. Whereas a lot of this sex dungeon stuff it's just like real BDSM stuff. Like there is no power related weird stuff unlike the Herogasm episode. So it's like, okay, does that more creative stuff, justify it? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. Like, should the Eric Kripke and the writers feel bad for making this episode? Like, I don't know. Maybe in 10 years, I don't know. Should I feel bad for enjoying it and not even thinking about it the first time I watched it? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Well, I think the other aspect of the dynamic that people have brought up that you hadn't mentioned yet was that like Tech Knight was like his favorite superhero growing up. Yeah. So there's that other aspect of the power imbalance that even as Huey's become more cynical and not anti-soup or whatever, he's still kind of always admired Tech Knight too, like, or at least what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
So there's that element of trauma.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I guess because I think the people who are the kind of most outraged about it think like Tech Knight knew the whole time. And I guess if he doesn't know, it makes it a little bit better because like there's an established safe word that he has. And he's like, well, if it was too much, then he would say the safe word. So it's like, I don't know.
But it's very gray. It's hard to, I don't know. It's very hard to tell, quite frankly. And I don't know. And it's like, well, you know what? So there's like, what actually happens to Huey? Okay, well, he has to he takes off his pants and he has to sit on a cake. Squat gobbler, Better Call Saul. Fart in the cake. And then he gets like tickled, but then like the grossest stuff is when he gets like the dry cum or whatever all over his face. And like, that's okay. That's where I can see, okay, like, maybe and how long it goes, and then they're literally gonna cut a hole into him because of tech, which I forgot about his fascination with holes. His fetish with holes.
So I don't know. If you thought that was like really tone deaf and bad, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I can definitely see.
I can totally see it. I don't want to say you're wrong. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know. It's definitely played on for a long time. That scene goes on longer and longer and longer.
It does.
So if it's shorter, does that make it better? If they don't wipe their bodily fluids over them, does that make it better? Like, I don't know.
The argument I've seen on the other side that I don't necessarily think works entirely is that he has that like moment at the end where he kind of like breaks down with Annie or whatever.
Yeah.
The issue with, and like, if that was on its own, like him, reacting to being traumatized or whatever, played fully seriously, I think that would help with the, like the perception of this episode a little bit. But it's also like, unfortunately, it's that combined with him, like being, his dad dying and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple layers to that kind of breakdown that I don't think make it clear that, what he just went through was a lot or whatever.
Was the cause of it. Necessarily.
Yeah. So that's kind of ambiguous. And I think, I don't know, if they could have been more clear cut with that, maybe that would help a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. It's complicated, and I really don't know what to say about it. I do want to talk about maybe this. I guess we should just finish wrapping up what we have to say about the episode, and then we can talk about kind of overall with 2 episodes left, how we're feeling about the season so far. But other big developments here. So there's the attempt to go in and rescue Huey because they've cut out communication going down into the cave. They can't communicate through all that. The walls and whatever.
Yeah.
So they lose communication. So they go in after him, and you have basically MM gets a heart attack.
Yeah. Or it's a panic attack.
A panic attack. That's right. Sorry.
And he shoots Sage,
which I was like, oh my gosh, Sage died. And then I was like, oh wait, her brain regenerates.
She's just going to be dumb for a little bit.
Yeah. Dumb Sage is so funny. It
is very funny.
Dumb Sage and the Deep are like my MVPs. I know everybody's on the A train, but I'm on Dumb Sage and the Deep train. But
A train shows up.
Yeah, A train saves him. You have the whole scene with the books.
Yep.
Which the for the sake of his daughter, I guess was a made up book by and they credited the prop designer or something. Okay. So that's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would have been funnier if it was like something even more specific, or if they played it. I don't know. I thought it was a cute little moment. Some people were like, "That's way too plot convenient."
It's kind of plot convenient, but I think it's fun. Yeah,
it's a TV show. Okay,
it's like when Bumblebee in the Transformers movies finds the right radio programs playing at the right time to say what he wants to say.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know. So of all the things to nitpick, I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, they get Huey out of there. Tech Knight is killed by his butler, right? The other poor old sidekick is released. So they make it out of there. Starlight tranks.
Or I guess before Tech Knight dies, they transfer a bunch of money to various charities
that's
from
right.
Tech Knight's bank account.
$100 million to Black Lives Matter. How do you torture a masochist? Yeah. That's a funny bit. How do you torture a masochist?
Yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah. No, not them. I thought that was legitimately funny. But then Starlight takes out Firecracker. She apologized. Did you buy it?
No.
You don't buy that apology?
Well, I don't know. Starlight might genuinely be apologizing about the stuff when she was younger and everything. I could see that genuinely, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It was also just to get her close and everything.
Yeah. But then one of maybe the more scarring scenes in an episode where there's literally a 15-minute sex dungeon sequence is the scene between Homelander and Firecracker.
Mm-hmm. And this was the first thing from the episode I saw, because as soon as this episode went up, people were clipped this and were sharing it on Twitter. This is wild.
So you saw this before the
I
episode?
did see this before the episode.
Wow. I just incredible how they continue to play off of Homelander's obsession of breast milk. Mm-hmm. In a way that just continues to baffle me in a way that I thought, that was pretty funny.
It was.
Just
I thought it was a pretty funny scene.
Off screen, just squirt into Anthony Starr's face.
His reaction is so good.
That's so funny. I don't know how he was that animated.
It's like a switch completely flipped because prior to that, he's shown nothing but just disinterest in Firecracker.
I am not sexually attracted to you.
Yeah, that's literally what he says right before that. And then, yeah, just immediate,
like, oh my gosh, I am yours. You are mine. Which was hilarious twist. Did not see that coming.
No.
I totally thought they were like sowing seeds of like, is Firecracker gonna like join up with the boys that he like to like uninspite and stuff? And nope, completely the opposite. I thought that was great. And then Holden, you called it, which as soon as like you said it, I was like, yeah, that's definitely right. Where what's his name is just not real. Joe is not real.
Joe is not real. Fight Club situation going on.
Yeah. He's not real. Yeah. He's just talking to this person that doesn't exist, which is very evident, I think, in this episode especially.
Yeah. If you go in with that idea in mind for this episode, if you had listened to our review last week and thought that, then yeah, it's pretty obvious this episode.
But still, I think it works. I think it's funny when he pours the whiskey or whatever, and it's just on the table. But yeah, what's Butcher gonna do now? What's he gonna do? He cut off that guy's leg.
Well, and they found out that the only way to make a virus that could kill Homelander is to make it viral enough to like spread to every soup, and it would just kill every soup in the world, likely.
What about Annie and Kimiko?
Exactly.
So that's this episode. I don't know. I really enjoyed watching it when it came out. In retrospect, maybe a little bit more of a mixed bag.
I think aside from the Huey stuff, I quite liked the episode.
Yeah, I did like everything else around that.
And even some of the Tech Knight stuff that didn't necessarily have to do with Huey, I thought was very interesting and weird and entertaining. But yeah, it's just that one aspect of it that's very
Yeah, like you could have taken that part out.
Yeah,
and you'd be fine. Season 4, we have 2 episodes left, Holden. The overall reaction is this is the worst season so far. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that because I think we mentioned it last week. We'll see how the season ends and everything, but I feel like too much is happening for like it to be the worst season, quite frankly. I feel like there's just a lot going on, and even if you just look at it from like a plot development standpoint, it's maybe more interesting than season 3.
Okay, so I'm curious, like, what has specifically happened this season that has pushed things forward?
I don't know. Just everything with it. It feels like Homelander and Sage's plan is like actually going places. Like things are actually happening on that front, which I think is different than what a lot of people have complained about, like especially season 3, where it kind of felt like they were spinning wheels on that front a little bit. But here, I mean, we didn't mention, but they're talking about like internment camps at Tech Knight's prisons and everything. There's these things that feel like are going to have a lot of consequences here pretty soon. And just, I mean, the stuff with Huey's dad, I thought was done really pretty well. I like Annie's plot this season, even though a lot of people don't seem to like that. There's a lot of things that maybe more from like a character standpoint, it feels like they're advancing quite a bit, but even still greater plot. I think that stuff with the villains, pretty good stuff so far.
Yeah, I think it has been a good season for the villains. I agree. The stuff that maybe isn't working, obviously we talked about Frenchie. And his stuff,
which we forgot to mention at all. I mean, Frenchie isn't in this episode at all.
Is he not?
I don't think so, because I think it's just Kimiko going to the prison, and the prison's like, he doesn't want to see you.
Yeah, that's right. The Frenchie stuff, they've done the same thing with Frenchie the last 3 seasons.
Yeah,
so it's not working for me super well. How do you feel about this season so far?
I like him. I think they've played the him not being the best leader card maybe one too many times at this point this season. I'm hoping they kind of do something else with him. But I like the stuff with like his daughters like taking after his like more negative qualities and stuff, and him kind of having to grapple with that. And I also just like, I mean, aside from like them constantly pointing out maybe he isn't willing to go far enough as a leader. I think it is still interesting to see him as the leader of the boys and just how it's different from Butcher.
Yeah.
Doing it. So I like MM overall this season,
Yeah.
I think.
I think the A-Train stuff has been really good, really interesting.
So dead. He's so dead.
The most dead person ever.
His like little moment with that kid outside the hospital, I'm like, okay, this kid sees him as a hero. Yeah, he's dead. This season probably.
Which would be a pleasant surprise if he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
His story intersecting with Ashley's has been great. Everything with the Deep, just phenomenal so far. And Sister Sage. Firecracker, obviously a very on the nose thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're parodying real life. I mean, whatever.
The Boys has always been on the nose.
Yeah, it really has.
Insane that people haven't thought that.
One thing I will get, like, I do think like season 4 and season 1 do feel distinctly different in like the world. Season 1, the superheroes like actually still save people. Like it's not all completely manufactured. And then this season, it just is like everything is just completely manufactured.
My thought is that you could interpret it as like season 1, you still have like newcomer eyes, whatever. Like you don't exactly know everything that's going on behind the scenes, and maybe everything there is manufactured. But as you get more and more into this world, like you see, it's just all fake and everything. And now we're at the point so far behind the curtain that they don't even like attempt. At least the show itself doesn't attempt to portray to us that there's any real authentic stuff going on.
Yeah.
So
I mean, season 1 is, I feel like, more about the capitalism is like a critique of like the monetization of literally everything.
Yeah.
And now it's just critiquing far right wing politics.
Yeah.
And fascism and stuff. So it's like, okay, I don't know. I preferred the stuff in season 1. I felt like I enjoyed that a little bit more. I still think this is pretty fun. And
season 1's probably still my favorite season.
It's just got the most nuance, I think, in terms of what it has to say, the development of the characters, and the payoff at the end. Like it just delivers all that stuff. Yeah. And I think its themes work the best, even though still, even in season 1, that's so great and new. Everything's super on the nose. Yeah,
it's very obvious what they're making fun of pretty much the whole time.
But yeah, no, I still have found a lot of enjoyment in this bad, letdown, disappointing season of The Boys.
Yeah, no, I'm not on that train that it's a letdown season here. Just because I'm having too much fun with a lot of the things that's going on, and I like the new characters a lot, especially Sage and stuff. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, overall. I can see the problems people have with it, but I'm still liking it a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get back with you and talk to you about the final 2 episodes, each one. Next week, we'll talk about episode 7, The Insider, and then, of course, episode 8, the season finale, Assassination Run, will be the final episode of that. So subscribe, stay tuned.
Because A-Train runs and he's going to die.
There you go.
And assassination starts with A.
Let us know what you thought of this episode down in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff.